Hi, everybody. I'm looking to see if this connects. I'm having a little bit of some technical difficulties. I see that one person is here, and there's Nikki. Great. So I'm going to add Nikki. Hopefully this will work great. Yes. Checking all my stuff to make sure it's all working. And there's Kristen. Hi, Kristen. Hopefully Nikki will join us in a second. I'm going to introduce myself really quickly because we are already live. Hopefully this is working. Yeah, we're good. We can add Nikki. Sometimes it takes a minute, so we're just being patient. That is adding. Oh, wait a minute. Can I hear Nikki? Hey, oh, there you are. Great. Sorry. We've got it. I had a little pause and got back there. We made it. Here I am with Nikki. All right, I'm going to move over so I can get a little more in the center here. Fabulous. Welcome, Nikki, and welcome everybody who's watching today live, and also those of you who are here on the replay. Can you hear me okay, Nikki?
Yes.
Okay, great. And I can hear you too. So just to introduce really quickly, my name is Marcy Melzer, and I am an intuitive speech and language pathologist. And I am here today to talk with my very first Waves of Communication mommy. I'm going to get emotional. I should have brought a tissue. I knew that was going to happen because it's so exciting to have Nikki here with me to share with you the exciting progress she has seen with her little guy. And so what I kind of want to do in this video is I wrote a few notes as usual to ask Nikki some questions to share with all of you kind of her language facilitation journey and, you know, what happened about the whole thing. And then hopefully at the end, you can share a little bit of advice with some of our friends, you know, some of the moms who are, you know, just have late talking kids and, you know, want to know what to do. So welcome, Nikki.
Thanks for having me.
So why don't we start with why, you know, Nikki found me. Actually, I didn't reach out to her. She found me. And let's tell the folks out here why it is that you searched for a speech pathologist in the first place.
Right. So Neil we noticed that his speech really wasn't there, but we were kind of just waiting. You know, we played that game of, okay, maybe it'll be different next week, or maybe next week and the next week. And then that turned into next week and the next week, and nothing really progressed. And so we went to the pediatrician. You know, you have to fill out that questionnaire with their yearly checkups. And with my other two boys, it was a simple no, yes, yes, everything's, you don't even have to read it. And with Neil, when we got to the speech and the words and the language and everything, I was questioning every box very carefully. I was like, well, wait, it's yes and it's no. And I was like, uh-oh, I think something's going on here. So I told the pediatrician, and, you know, I was given a pamphlet and said, here you go. There you go. And I was in tears because this is new, this is scary, this is frightening, this is a lot of things that I just got told in a pamphlet in a doctor's office. So I remember.
And what did the pamphlet say?
It basically was just a place to go to, a referral place, but I didn't even know if that's what I wanted. I didn't even know anything about this. It was a whole new world. So there were a million questions, but I didn't even know really what questions to ask because it was so new. I didn't even know what to do. And so I remember I just cried the whole way home, cried when I got home because you know, you don't want to make the wrong move, but then I didn't even know what I was doing. So I went to the internet because I knew one thing. For us, I knew that we didn't want an office setting, and we didn't want, not that this is bad, but we didn't want someone that was just going to work with Neil. We wanted, all of us wanted to be involved, because I knew that I was with him the most out of anyone. And so it was great to have the speech, but we wanted to do a lot. We wanted to be in control of it too, you know? And so I was Googling and Googling, and I couldn't find anybody that met that criteria. Nobody wanted to not only come into your home, but to work with everybody. It wanted to be one-on-one or something. Couldn't find it. So funny how it worked. I actually went into a mom group, and I just remember searching in the mom group, speech delay. And I found a friend, and I don't want to say her name because I don't know if she wants to talk about it, but a sweet, sweet friend.
Yeah.
And she had shared in there a year or two prior that she was going through this. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay. I found somebody. So when I reached out to her immediately, she said, you were the one she had used. And she went through her whole journey with me and explained where her son was and how far he had come. And I was like, this is what we want. And she said, you know, Marcy worked with all of us. She was with us. And I was like, this is what I'm looking for. I said that to her. I was like, this is what I've been looking for. And so that's how we found you.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I mean, you know, I talk a lot about how the universe kind of brings people together for certain reasons. And I just done this video the other day about how I was going through my change in my circumstance. And I had worked with the other mom that you knew, and her little guy wasn't talking at all. And, you know, we got him over his circumstance, and now he's doing great. But it was a whole different circumstance than your little guy. You know, every family is very different. And, you know, like I said, I was kind of going through that thing. And so it was interesting when I approached your family, I was like, well, okay, because I had just been through another mom that said, was kind of a fix my kid mom, who said, we want you to come here while we sit in the other room and work. And when you and I talked on the phone about how you really wanted to be coached, I was like, woohoo, this is going to be a good family for me. And, you know, obviously we felt the same. So we started with a consultation where I came to your house, and that's what I was talking about on the video, how it was in the evening, you know, after work time, and the boys were in their typical afternoon, you know, busy, kind of running around doing whatever. And we would call Neil over and I'd talk to him a little bit, but most of it was questions from you guys. You know, what is this all about? And, you know, what can we do? And is it possible? And is it autism? And, you know, all these other questions that we had, because Neil not only was a late talker, but he also wasn't really communicating with anybody besides you. He was like a magnet attached to you, and you had to interpret for him everywhere, which is very, very common for the families that I work with in the program, very common. So, so we had our consultation, and I, you know, obviously it was a nice match, and you guys decided to start to work with me. And that day in the consultation, I said, all right, I'll be back next week for our first appointment, but in this week, I want you to do, you know, these things. And I remember giving you a Post-it to stick on your fridge. And so what happened during that week after you started doing those first strategies?
I would say that first week was one of the hardest, because there was some very hard moments in there. That was one of the hardest, because we went from Neil was just not talking, not doing anything, to trying to teach him, and also for all of us trying to figure out, how do we incorporate this so not only Neil doesn't feel like it's all about him, like, you know, he has a speech delay. How do we make this like a family thing? So how do we incorporate that into our lives? Just this whole whirlwind of change in 1 week. So that week was really hard. And Neil was resistant to, I remember specifically you wanted him to do the ending sounds and the S's. And I was like, oh my goodness, yeah. He was very resistant. We just kept on and kept on. And then, you know, when you came back, we had it. But it took us that whole week to get it. It's a
Right, I
long
know.
week.
But I mean, but in 1 week, like I said, and what was funny was, what's interesting, and I'm glad that you shared that experience because that whole struggle for that first week to get your head in the language facilitator mode and his head in the mom's trying to help me and not make me do something hard, that it's still fun kind of thing. It took that whole week, but you worked all week on that. And sometimes in therapy, to get a child sort of over that hump takes a long time. And when I came back, the other thing that I had you do was never giving in without him trying at, some kind of a request, whether it's verbal or nonverbal. So you put some of the responsibility onto him. And I know that he had blockages to that. Like he was used to you knowing what he wanted and it arriving, and suddenly you kind of put another step in there where you did some language facilitation, and he didn't like that at
No, he did
first.
at
So,
all. He was very,
so
he would
yeah,
just especially when when he wouldn't get it, like if we didn't give it to him because we made him try and then he didn't want to do it, it was a meltdown because it was why are we doing things this way now? What's changing here? What's going on? So
right, right. And that was a huge learning moment for me because here I was trying to coach you to be prompting therapists, in that week when, it was a real struggle for you. And so then we started to work on strategies and I was demonstrating for you. Like I'd come over and bring stuff and we would have all the boys and do that. So why don't you tell people what those sessions kind of looked like for us?
so those sessions were really good. What they would look like is when you would come over and basically Marcy would show me how to use toys, use all sorts of tools as language facilitation. And Neil not even know that that's what we were doing. He thought we were just playing, but yet we're incorporating stuff. And Neil was less resistant to that because he thought we were playing. And so he was picking up on that fast. Even the one I remember the most that I still use that's been really helpful with school is the school bus, the little people with the school bus. There's like so many things you can do with that one toy to make it happen that way, to where he learns new stuff. So just things like that it was really helpful, that stuff that we can be doing on a daily basis. And also that we could show his brothers, hey, when you're playing this with Neil, do it this way, say this, make him do this. That way we're all doing it.
Yeah, and I think that both of those things, incorporating your whole family into it, and I have some other moms who are in the program now who have bigger families too, and they've really used their other siblings as helpers to help them, which is an awesome strategy. And then making it fun because, the more you already figured out, the more you push with kids who are resistant to talking, the more they just sort of escape from it. So, yep. So then we started working on those sessions, and all right, let's tell everybody a little bit about Neil's speech progression. So before you met me, what kind of communication was he using? Like, how did he get what he wanted?
Well, let's see. I, I would say 90% of the time, I just knew what he wanted. Like I could just feel it. I could just read him like a book just by looking. I just knew. That was 90% of it. The other was pulling a tantrum. I mean, because then he didn't have the words and I was just doing it. But then if I was doing it wrong, he would pull a tantrum to get what he wanted. So basically, or he was, I know a lot of times he wouldn't really point at stuff, but he would just kind of like go to it. He would go to what he wanted. So I would just read him and know what he wanted and we'd go from there, you know.
Right. Yeah. So he really was pretty much not using words at all to get what he wanted. And he did say a
Mhm.
few words though,
Yes,
didn't
he
he?
did. He did all the
Yeah.
early milestones like the mama, the dada, baby, bubba. He hit those, he could say those words and people could understand those words, but then it just stopped after that.
Yeah, so pretty much just calling your attention and, the things that he loved, things like that. All right. And so after the first week, you started to see some more words, and there were more words already for him to start requesting because you made him give a try at a word. You modeled all the words and you were trying to do that. So he started to say words, and they weren't always very clear, but he developed a lot of single words pretty quickly in the first, probably 3 to 4 weeks, had a lot of single words. And then we were moving up into word combinations. And then we kind of broke it down. It broke down then, didn't it?
That was a mess. That was hard. It's hard. And
yeah,
rough.
and I think that's kind of one of the things that we were, you'd be like, look, we're trying, and the same kinds of strategies aren't working anymore. So we had to make a shift again in, understanding about Neil and how things moved. And what do you think was the thing that got you over the hump to get him to start to combine words? I remember, actually, I'm going to tell you,
Tell me.
because now I remember, because I remember one thing. Like when I came over, see, this was the thing. I would come over to the house, and he would, at that point, he was talking all the time, but it was hard for him to be understood. That was the thing. Like he was using single words, and he was saying multiple single words or saying the same word over and over again, but most people couldn't understand him except for you, because you're the mom. And so I wasn't getting it, like even me, because I knew him very well, because what happened was when he started using words, then he got to be a blabbermouth, and he was da 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 da, and we didn't understand what he was saying, but it was all these single words. It's kind of sounded like me. So, right. So then we had to slow him down and get him talking. So that was when we started to put you in his place, for you to sort of think about his messages, and instead of interpreting them and telling everybody Neil wants this, or Neil's saying that, or Neil's doing that, you started to give Neil 2 or 3 words to represent those things that he was trying to communicate. So in addition to being his interpreter and just telling everybody what he wanted, you started to facilitate feeding him the language he needed to give him those things, and working on slowing down and paying attention so that other people could understand him. And I think that was the other thing too, was letting him know that other people couldn't understand him.
Yes.
Because that's the thing that, especially kids like Neil, he's so cute and he was talking more, and people are doing a lot of the, yeah, Neil, what's he saying, Nikki?
Yeah, that was one thing that was an indicator for us, and that's what, people would just do the, and I could read it. I knew what they were doing. It was, I don't understand him, and he was trying so hard, and I didn't want to discourage him, but at the same time, I wanted to be honest with him, because Neil can completely understand what you're saying. He knows what's going on. So I started telling him, Neil, we can't understand you. Slow down. And he would do it. He could understand,
Right.
Okay, I want to be understood. So, okay, I'll do that. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's one of the things, especially with your family, since you're so straightforward and explain things to them. I mean, obviously you want to include your whole family in the whole thing, but when your kids do something that's not okay, because they're boys and they test and they, do whatever, you don't hesitate to let them know what's going on. And that's how you teach, and that's how they learn their lessons. And, I think, with Neil too, that was how it was. He really wanted to I think he was feeling so good about people understanding him when you said, slow down or whatever, that he then took on that responsibility, bless his heart. That's what makes me cry, because he's so sweet at just taking on, like, he worked so hard, just like you said. And before, when, we prompted and that kind of stuff, he wasn't all into it, working very hard. But after we made it fun, and after we incorporated the whole family, and after you let him know that other people do want to know him and understand him, then he spontaneously tried. And we're talking about a 3-year-old,
Oh,
y'all. This is a 3-year-old busy boy. So, but the sweetest soul. And this is true of so many of the kids of the parents that I work with now in the program, is their kids are super sweet and they understand what's going on. And so, I think a lot of times parents don't give their kids enough credit for understanding what is acceptable and what's not. And that was one of the things that we dealt with his tantrums too,
oh
wasn't it?
yeah, definitely.
Um, we really had to work on, he was using tantrums as a communication
Hmm.
behavior. For sure, 100%. Like you said, he was in the beginning, he was using tantrums to tell you what he
Oh yeah.
wanted, when you guessed wrong, kind of things. So we had to shift that tantrum behavior and get rid of it and replace it with words and show him how that happens. And that was a process in itself,
My
wasn't it?
goodness.
You
I
know?
feel like it, I mean, I never want to make it seem like, because I know how far Neil's come, and he was nonverbal, and to be where he is now, and people are like, oh my goodness. But I always want people to know that this was a journey, that there were highs and there were lows, and it was tears and it was hard times, but it was really, really good too. But yeah, that was one of those
Yeah.
hard times, was replacing the
Yeah.
tantrums with words. So, but I think that's been so key for his progress too, is being able to say what he's feeling. Like, I'm mad right now. He can tell us now instead of getting mad. He can say, I'm mad right now.
Yeah.
And that's been so beneficial.
Yeah, that's really, really huge. That's really, really huge. So I think that just that he can share his feelings verbally instead of getting mad and doing that stuff. That's, what's really huge. All right, so that probably took us, we were at working at a couple words after we only worked together for about 4 months, I would say, something like that. Was it
It was about 4 or 5 months. Yeah. Hmm.
4 or 5 months? Yeah, because it was right up until about Christmas time. And then we took a break because I started my online program and you guys were set. And, with the exception of a few little phone calls in between to help get over some of the hurdles, you guys got to go to Disney and he talked to the characters at Disney and he started doing, more kinds of exchange and conversational communication and all of those things. And so we lost track of each other for a little while. And then when I started back with the online program, I brought you back in so that you can join the community with my other moms. And so tell us now, we're a year later, and you've just been in the program. We haven't worked together, like we just had those few months, but since then we've just had updated strategies and things like that. And so tell us about Neil's communication now.
Gosh, it's like night and day. I'm talking, and I sing your praises all the time. And I would not just say this to anybody that's watching, but Marcy has been our lifesaver. She's been our lifeline. Today, Neil is obviously, the single words are there. He's making complete sentences. He's in school full time, regular school, 5 days a week.
I know.
He is just, he's talking nonstop. You know, the he's like a different child, and we're starting to see, because we've been going to the same school, and I would watch. I remember telling you, I would watch people that would come to the car and put my older two sons in, and Neil would try and talk. And at first it was the, okay. And now it's the, oh, you're doing that? Oh, that's so great. They're talking back. So I know they're understanding him. And then he's in school and he's saying things like that we never do. He said, I make new friends today. Like, it's just, he's saying, my teacher said I was a good boy today. Or he's just communicating all these things, and he can go to, we feel
Wow.
comfortable enough with him going to school, because we knew that our goal was, if we need him in school, we need him to be able to convey to the teacher how he was feeling, what he needed, all these things. And we didn't know, a year ago, what that looked like. We had no clue.
Right.
And so now he can go there and he can independently, without me interpreting for him, which is such a big deal, tell the teacher, what he's thinking, what he needs, how he's feeling. And so it looks completely different. I mean,
That's
you know,
good.
you said when we went to Disney, he, the more he does things like this too, the better he feels about talking to people. He gets more comfortable with it. And so we went
Yeah.
to the Disney and there were the characters there, and he was saying stuff to the characters, and a lady actually stopped what she was doing that worked there at Disney. And she said, wait, she said, what did you say? And she actually pulled him over and she said, oh, you want to talk to the cowboy again? Which it was for Toy Story. And that's
Yeah.
exactly what he
Yeah.
said. But she took the time to stop and to listen to him. And he felt comfortable enough to tell her without me having to say anything. So, you know, he's blossoming with his speech, and it's just making a huge difference. It looks different from a year ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, he's able, I mean, we've you taken care of those tantrum behaviors. He's communicating socially with people, you know, that are appropriate, strangers, you know what I mean, the people who aren't familiar with him, and people who knew him before who couldn't communicate with him. Other strange, you know, people at the school, teachers and other staff at the school who knew you in the car rider line are now, you know, now he's going to the school. I'm sure that, you know, it's doing so great, and that's a big deal. I mean, you know, a lot of parents like you know, think about when you were in the doctor's office looking at that brochure, like, what are we going to do? Is, you know, what's our future going to be like? And, you know, all of that. And here 1 year later, he's at school, and, you know, you'll be looking back on this when he's graduating high school thinking, you know,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that's great. So I really, really great. And what, I guess, you know, is your hope for Neil in the future? Like, where do you really want to see his communication and learning and everything go to?
Um, I just guess that my hope and my goal with Neil is that one day we're going to look back on this and it's just going to be a memory, and that, you know, he's going to be talking up, you know, with his peers. He's going to be with them. And even if that looks a little different, that's okay. Like, you know, I just want him to be able to not feel different. You know, I want him to be comfortable and confident in talking and doing those things. So that's just really our goals, is just for him to, you know,
Yeah.
whatever that looks like with him. So,
Yeah, yeah, communicate, do his
mhm.
thing. That's wonderful. Yeah, and I think most definitely, I mean, he's already exceeded your expectations. So I have no doubt that he's going to continue to do that. And I want to put together a little montage video of him like I did have done for other kids, because it's really great. And maybe I'll share Neil talking with everybody, because if that's okay
Yeah.
with you, because he is just he's a rock star. And I can't say more about, you know, the process of how it worked with you is really how it's going for the other families too. They definitely have those highs and lows. There's definitely times that are more frustrating than others, because we're talking about kids, we're talking about development, and we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
change, you know. The other thing that I wanted to give a shout out is to your husband, who is also an amazing language facilitator. And what he has been very good at to help you out is every time I give you a strategy or a toy, or you know, even when I gave you a stack of flashcards, he was really good at finding innovative, cool, fun ways to engage all the
Mm-hmm.
boys in language facilitation to help Neil in super fun ways. And I remember your journey started. I was thinking about this when I was getting ready for the interview. Right after we met, there was a
Mm-hmm.
hurricane that came to Florida, and you all decided to take a trip, which is what some people say evacuate. But, you know, we kind of did it wasn't, you know, it was kind of coming this way, and people were hunkering down, and you guys decided to take a little road trip to to get out of the path of the hurricane. And it was a long drive in a lot of traffic, because a lot of people were making that same little trip up north. And um, in the car ride, you did so much fun language
Mm-hmm.
facilitation with the boys. And that was a really good, in the car is a really great place to do language facilitation. But, you know, the fact that you looked at the whole circumstance, every minute of your day, no matter what you were doing, and we're able to incorporate language facilitation in that. I think that's what is a big, a big perk. That's what's been great about you. And the families that have done the best in the program are the ones that have made those adaptations. And that's what I do with the strategies, is pretty much tell you how to do that. But your creativity always helps. All right. So I guess the last question I have, or the last thing, unless there's something else you want to share with us about Neil, I mean, you said that you've been really happy with the program. What kind of advice would you have to parents? I mean, I know that you advise doing the program, but what other kind of advice might you have for them if they aren't sure if their child is, really having a problem or not, or if they are sure, like what they should do first? What kind of advice would you have for other moms?
I think looking back, if I could sit down and talk with me, if I could sit in that pediatrician's office with the old me a year ago, I think that I would tell somebody that it's going to look different. It's going to look different a year from now. It's going to look different. Whether it's a little step or a big step, it's going to look different. I would say to the moms that they don't have to do the conventional way with speech therapy. Like, they can do with your program, and that's okay. They don't have to do what everybody says. You need to go this way. You need to go this way. Don't be afraid to think outside the box and go outside the box with this journey, because, the speech journey is yours and it's different from everybody else's. Another thing I would say is it's okay to be scared and fearful. Like, it's okay. But another important thing I think is don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions along the way to people that you are, in the program with, because I learned so much from you asking the questions, just little questions to ask to help me learn too. And so, yeah, and don't be afraid of the speech journey. It's not scary, I promise. it's fun. It is not scary.
Yeah.
You may be scared of what the future looks like, but the speech journey, especially with Marcy, it's fun. It is fun.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we talk about the struggles, and like any journey, there's going to be struggles, and that's how it goes. And because you're shifting your behavior, you're shifting your child's behavior, and anytime you're making shifts, there's always going to be resistance. It's just like, pulling a heavy truck with flat tires, you know what I mean? So I appreciate that. I think that's amazing advice for other parents, is to really look at things. And I would say the other thing that you did, that I know the mom that referred you did as well, was really follow your heart, right? When you do look at other things, or when the doctor hands you a brochure, or you go on the internet to search for things, everything you look at, really test it with your heart to see if it resonates with you. Because the only way you're going to make real lasting change and get kids to make shifts like that is if you do something that aligns with you. So yeah, so I think that that's what's going to be, a fabulous thing for all parents who are in this journey. Know that it's going to be different if you do the work. Even if you do a little bit of something every day, it's definitely going to look different. And patience and trust in the process is, something I always encourage everybody to do. So thank you again, Nikki, so much for coming and joining me here live to share with parents. I know that it's going to be beneficial for other parents to hear your story, because it's very, very common. And if you are out there as a mom who has a late talking child and you are stuck doing like Nikki did, sort of interpreting and anticipating all your kids' needs, because you don't really have another way. I mean, that was it. You really didn't have an alternative. You have to know what they want. So, if you don't know what to do next, the best thing to do is to reach out, send me a message, and, I can get you started with my free class and things like that to let you know more about waves of communication and language facilitation in general, and let you know how it is easy, happy, safe, and fun. Even though it's challenging sometimes, that's part of life, and we roll through it and we have fun and we get them back going. And then when you look at the ultimate result, it's way worth it, right?
Oh my goodness. Yes, a million times over.
Yeah, fabulous, amazing. Okay, thanks so much for everybody else for joining us today on this live. Again, it was super great to have Nikki here with me, and I will be back again soon with another parent interview, who knows, with another mom, and always with my topics and tips of the week and all of that. And if you want to really join a community, it's kind of really starting to be a little community here in my language facilitation resources group. A lot of parents in there, like Nikki, who are getting tips on how to get started and at least give language facilitation a try with your kids. Some of the videos and things that I put in there, other parents are, at least giving it a try and seeing if it, you can get started with it. And if you just want help getting over that hump, making the shift in yourself and your child, that's what I can help you do in my program. So, all right, we'll get off of here for now. Thanks again, Nikki, and I'm sure I'll be talking to you soon, and I'll be talking to everybody else real soon with my next live. Have a great day, everybody.